People get triggered when they talk about money. Am I doing okay? Am I not doing it right? There is no right. There is no wrong. It's all about learning and knowing that you can try again and try again and try again. And that some people are going to resonate with you and some people aren't. And that's okay. So I'm Dusty. I never use my last name. I don't really know why. I was asked to be here kind of surprisingly and also very last minute. So throughout the week, I threw out all these ideas. I was like, oh, maybe I'll talk about creating a bucket list. Maybe I'll talk about human-centered design. Maybe I'll talk about this. Maybe I'll talk about that. And ultimately what I decided to do was just tell you guys a little bit about my journey and why I'm actually here, which is by trade, I talk about financial wellness. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about that. By experience, I'm with you guys. I'm on this FI journey. You may have noticed I am not left-brained. I feel like a lot of people in this room very much love spreadsheets. They love analytics. They love going deep into the weeds. I see someone raising their hand, right? That's me. That's me. I am much more emotionally based. So when Rebecca was talking about being data-driven versus heart-led, I thought this is such a great lesson for me because I tend to always come from the heart versus looking at the data. And I wanted to focus today's topic on how we can have conversations with the people in our lives around those things, because I think that we struggle to talk about money and we want to make it easier. And the last reason I'm here is connections. So you guys might recognize the person in this picture who is Carla Crapster. And Carla was the one that recommended that maybe I talk here today. So if I didn't live in Longmont, I probably wouldn't be here. My work, financial wellness. So I work for a national nonprofit. I just celebrated 17 and a half years and put in my 2 weeks notice, which I'm very excited about. So our goal is to empower people to lead financially healthy lives. And what does that mean? I feel like we have this conversation a lot. And when I think about being good with money, what is good with money? This question really bothers me because for us in this room, being good with money might be, I'm great at investments. I can run numbers. I can see something and I recognize that that doesn't meet the 1% rule. That doesn't meet these 10 requirements that are on our journey to FI. When we're talking to someone else, being good with money might be, I read a book about how to budget. I'm saving $400. When you guys think about the people in this room, we're all on this path. And the people that we're talking to, 40% of Americans have less than $400 in savings. 61% of people live paycheck to paycheck. It's stressful. When we talk about fee-free banking, that's amazing to me. Because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you need every single dollar and you don't have the bandwidth to think bigger. So when we're in this room and we're like, well, people look at us like we're crazy when we talk about money. Well, yeah, because they're afraid. We are kind of crazy, absolutely. And if you can flip that switch and become a planner, it does reduce your stress and it increases your confidence. So what you guys should know is that when I started this job in 2006, I felt like a fraud. Took a job, I was really excited. I was excited to learn about money, and then I went through a really terrible breakup, and I did everything that I shouldn't have done. So a lot of times we have a should storm, right? I should have done this. I should have done that. I knew better. Why didn't I do better? And in 2006, I was engaged. I bought a house in my name thinking, well, when we get married, we're going to refinance. Everything will be fine. It's great. Got a dog. I mean, I was like on the path, right? To 2 kids, white picket fence, happily ever after. 3 months before the wedding, he called things off. Decided, maybe there was someone else that was a little bit better. And that's okay. I still had a house in my name. The market crashed. My house that I paid $160,000 for was worth $50,000. And that should storm was raging, you guys. I should have known better. Why was I such an idiot? And here I am talking to people about their finances. That's what I was doing every day at that time. I was doing financial coaching for low to moderate income individuals that had a lot of credit card debt. And I had to take on a second job at Michael's in order to pay the bills because I only had enough money to pay for my mortgage, my car payment, and our Great Dane that I was keeping through this. I was like, yeah, he's mine. You can figure something else out. When you work at Michael's, people think you went to Glue U, which I didn't. I don't know anything about adhesives, and I'm making minimum wage. And there were days that it was really stressful because people ask you these crazy questions and you have to constantly remind yourself like, oh, okay, I can learn this. I can learn this. I can learn this. And then at work, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I clearly knew better and I didn't do better. So how do I get there? And I thought about my money journey. I grew up with parents who worked out of an envelope system. They saved points to buy Christmas presents. My dad had a little notebook in his back pocket where he tracked every expense. He was afraid of direct deposit because they're going to know where I bank. We used to have a stoplight in our town. We don't have that anymore. That was like our claim to fame. We had the only stoplight in the county. That's gone. There's one credit union. I'm like, Dad, they know. Someone's watching you. They know. So my money story was one of scarcity. And also my parents didn't have the tools to teach me more. So I needed to go out and learn this information. And I needed to be able to show up authentically at work. And that really started my journey of how do I learn more? And where do I find that information? And what I've learned is that money is taboo, right? You're told not to talk about money, politics, or religion. So money is taboo. It's not something that we can openly talk about. The other thing I learned, empathy matters. People hear information differently. They interpret things differently. We see the world differently because of the experiences that we've had. So you have to show up with a different message and you have to look for something that resonates with you so that it will click, so that you really understand it. And money is not a math equation. It's not. It's emotional. It's personal. We make decisions not based on data. We make it based on what our neighbor said, based on what we heard, based on this article that we read on Google. And then we quickly change our minds. And that's not just us. So when you think about money being emotionally charged, it's not the only thing. I was prepping for this and I was like, well, what visuals can I use? And the song that came to my mind was, let's talk about sex, baby. Well, let's talk about money, right? And how do we have those conversations? People get triggered when they talk about money. They're afraid. You guys did such an amazing job last night of being up here, opening up your finances and saying, this is where I'm at. Am I doing okay? Am I not doing it right? There is no right. There is no wrong. It's all about learning and knowing that you can try again and try again and try again. And that some people are going to resonate with you and some people aren't. And that's okay. The other thing that I learned is that empathy matters and you are scary. I have imposter syndrome standing up here because I look at the people in my community and I'm so glad that they're here. But I look at Carl and Doug and I think, this is where you should get information because these guys know their stuff. They can run all the numbers. If you have never met someone and they have it appears that they have their money stuff together, like it appears that we do because we're here, you are scary to your brother, to your sister, to your friend that you really want to help. And yet they're like, oh, I don't know if I can really actually ask David about this because, oh my gosh. And you get in your head and then you're afraid to do that. That's what people are thinking. They're not like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm not going to be judged if I come up here. Instead, you're thinking, oh no. We also have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Oftentimes, we are so quick to be thinking about how we're going to respond that we don't listen. And how can you just hear someone? Hear what they're really saying. Is it fear? Is it a barrier? You guys probably noticed last night, I was asking questions about more than money. It's about goals. It's about how is this making you feel? What are the conversations that you're having? What is the experience? You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak. You might be judgy. I'm giving you guys a caveat here, but I guarantee you're all judgmental. Every one of you. I am judgmental about so many different things. And we judge people based on what they're spending money on, based on how they spend money. We judge people for everything under the sun. You have to own that. Because otherwise, no one is going to come to you for advice or information. It's hard not to be judgy, right? And sometimes it's as simple as saying like, my face is saying it all, isn't it? I'm totally judging you and I'm really sorry. Help me understand. Like, just help me understand what you're thinking. And also, you don't know what you know. A lot of people, I grew up on an envelope system. I thought that was the only way to manage your money. I didn't know anything about investing. Like, that was not something that my parents did. Wasn't something that I did then, because that was what I knew. And I had to meet other people. I had to have my world opened before I could realize that I don't know what I know. And it's not just in money, right? It's in all kinds of things. A good example is I went to Pittsburgh for work and I ordered a salad thinking I'm doing the right thing, right? Like I'm healthy, and it came with fries on top. And I was like, oh. So I'd encourage you guys to think about that, right? You don't know, and you also don't know what you know. So what is normal to you might not be normal to someone else. So it's really important to get curious and to ask people questions about their finances and about, hey, like, just tell me more about your life and how you're thinking about things. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about empathy blockers, but I wanted to add this in because a lot of times we shut down a conversation before it even starts. So when you think about being warm and inviting and sharing this message, if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm quizzing you, or it's clear that I'm judging you, you don't want to talk to me anymore. If I'm one-upping you, oh, you saved $20, I saved $100 on my flight. Well, then why am I sharing this with you? You clearly don't want to listen to me. Educating, and I think that we tend to do that in this world, right? Like, let me give you all of the information because I'm so excited about this and I want you to know. And when you feel like you're always being educated, all of a sudden I'm like, no, I think I'm good. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to go over here and talk to someone else. Consoling, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry. People don't want to feel like you feel sorry for them. That puts you in a place of power and it puts them down here. You actually just want to hear them and ask, how can I support you? What do you need? How can I help you figure this out? It sounds like you're having a hard time with this. What is it that we can do? So you're in it with them. All of these things, it makes a difference because you want to have these conversations. And a lot of times I hear this conversation over and over again in this community where I can't have the conversation. People look at me like I'm weird. They just don't get it. They just don't get it. I keep telling them this and they just don't get it. Well, are you listening to them? Are you meeting them where they are? Or are you throwing up these empathy blockers where they can't even have the conversation with you? I'd also encourage you guys to think about money differently. Money is not a math equation. Money is about experiences. Money, it provides you the opportunity. And if you're in this room, what are you doing with this one precious life that you have? I don't want to be sitting over a spreadsheet or working an extra job. I want to be going to yoga at Red Rocks with one of my dearest friends. I want to be making cookies at Christmas because that's the life I want to live. So money is not a math equation. It's about what's important to you. And sometimes it's harder, right? Like I'm by myself, so it's easy for me to make these decisions. My sister, who is the picture here with the big family, grew up in the same household, thinks completely differently about money. And that's okay, because money is not a math equation. A lot of it is value-based. If you've never done this, there are actually value cards that you can purchase where you put your top 10 values. Like you take these 32 values and you narrow them down to 10. And a lot of your spending, a lot of your life is based on what you value. And you should spend on the things that matter to you and cut back on the other things. So if you can do that values exercise, I would highly recommend it. And then I would encourage you guys to meet people where they are. A lot of the people that you really care about are going to Google for information. Oh, well, Google said, this must be right. How many of us have self-diagnosed on Google? I'm dying next week. Right? Like, I read this, I have this rash. Google is not the answer. So we need to be able to understand that this might be where people are getting their information, and we can give it to them differently. The messenger matters. So I love this. This is from the Eves Project, this image in the middle, right? Like, I can't hear you. My dad can't hear me. If I talk about real estate, when I bought my first duplexes, my dad was like, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. Right? And I was like, well, I hope not. Right? And then you start getting in your head too about like, well, they said on Bigger Pockets. I listen to Mr. 1500. I know I can do this. Well, but my dad, who I love and admire and respect and who has been my source of information, he doesn't think that this is a good idea. So sometimes you need to get someone else to say the message for you. Because when you've had the role of brother, sister, whatever it is for many years, it just doesn't ring true. And then the delivery. Most people are not ready to have in-person conversations about money. So how can you show up differently? Can you send them a podcast? Can you send them an email? What is it that you can send someone so that they can have the safety of their own home versus like, hey, let me just sit down and talk your ear off about all these things that I'm excited about. Look for something that is in the way that they speak, that will resonate with them. Send it to them more than once. Have someone else send it to them because that messenger and the delivery really matter. And lastly, I'll just end with give yourself grace. You're going to get it wrong, right? When I look at me as a little girl, I'm like, oh, how many things have I screwed up? And it is so hard to reconcile your brain and your heart because your brain is like, yeah, this is exactly what you should do. And your heart's like, but I kind of want to do all these other things. So I would really encourage you guys to give yourself grace. And, maybe you can't help everyone, but if you help one person, you're going to change their lives. Just like the people in this room, looking over here, have changed mine. So thank you guys.